The situation is quite difficult, and it's not just difficult since you were asking about the recent situation. It's not just difficult since the recent years. It's difficult already since the 8th of May 1945 for the right wing, also for the conservative politics in Germany, because this date was more or less a deep impact on German politics. So when we talk today about what is conservative, what is meant with conservative politics in Germany, it doesn't have to do a lot with what we consider as conservative or what conservative meant before the 8th of May 1945. So just to give you an example, that what is meant as right-wing or conservative is very much influenced by what we call the Cold War experience. What means to be conservative or to right-wing meant at first to be anti-communist, anti-Bolshevik, anti-Soviet Union, and of course the people or the politicians here also anti-communist in East Germany. So the nationalist cause was replaced by a pro-Western cause, and this development you will see until today. So you might laugh when we say today that the party of our Chancellor Angela Merkel, the CDU, the Christian Democratic Union, is considered in mainstream media in Germany as the conservative party. But when you look what they are doing, in fact, you see they are the motor of the so-called European integration. And when I say Europe, I mean something very, very much different than when we talk about Brussels politics or the European Union. So European integration means, in the sense of our government now, giving sovereignty rights to Brussels, stepping more and more back, giving up national identity also. Or in other senses, the CDU is one of the parties which is campaigning very strong for multiculturalism, for Western liberalism. So all these things, they don't have anything to do what is considered as traditional right-wing or traditional conservative thinking. So we have a confusion today also about words and about definitions. What means when somebody says, yes, I'm conservative, you cannot expect him that he means with that he is watching on traditional values and so on. It can mean that he is a Western liberal who is supporting the European Union and is supporting the abolishment of Germany in this European Union. So there's a confusion of words. So this means if you are really right-wing or really traditional conservative, you don't have a political lobby until today. It's a matter of fact that in Germany, in the recent Germany right now, there are not a lot of these discussions. It's starting right now because the citizens are getting annoyed by Europe. They are getting annoyed by what they connect to this European Union, which means paying money to everybody for these umbrellas for rescue, the European currency, the euro. So now slowly it's starting a discussion what we maybe can call right-wing when we consider, for example, a discussion about national sovereignty or about true European thinking, what has nothing to do with the European Union, with this political evil instrument, with what is put on us. What is in reality, by the way, a Western liberal project and nothing else, what has nothing to do with culture. So when we start now discussing about what is German, what is Italian, what is Greek, what is French and so on, when we start discussing the question of identity, what means identity? Can identity be developed in a laboratorium, in a university, as our politicians today want to do it? Or when it comes to the question of gender, is it, we have the discussion in Germany right now about gender mainstreaming, it's a sort of state reason it became. So when the people start noticing that the official political position became a sort of artificial ideological concept which has nothing to do with your everyday life, and of course nothing to do with your ethnicity, with your gender, with with reality, to say it like this, if you can say that right-wing thinking means also referring to reality and not just to utopia. This starts right now. So we had in the past, for example, from another magazine, of the Compact magazine, a left-wing nationalist magazine, they made a sort of sovereignty congress in Berlin. Wasn't very big, but it is even a start. So we see that now at every corner these discussions are starting. And of course we hope a lot that from these grassroots, what we can watch now will develop a political power which might or which will correct the course of our government politics. Our government is more, I wouldn't even call it a real government, because it's handling more or less like a management group of an economic entity called Germany. Let us consider it like this. Our government in sorts of real politics, like foreign politics, inner politics, but also already in economic politics, is not handling on its own behalf. The German government is handling on behalf of others, and you can choose. It's sometimes from government to government it's different. So our government now is handling or is governing Germany on the behalf of transatlantic values. It's the CDU party, they are doing it on this. We have governments, they are handling it on Europe, the so-called European values, where what I said before has nothing to do with what we understand about the Europe. So they are always handling on a behalf of something which is not the German national interest. And this is the point. So in the structure of government and in the structure of established political parties, it's not possible for somebody who doesn't share these ideas or who doesn't at least, how shall I say, or to somebody who's opposing to these ideas, he will not make career. It's like a career machine. And even when you have, we say, when you have corners everywhere, you will be like a bonbon. You know, the longer you are in this party and the longer you are going up, the corners go away. You become round and round and small and small. And when you are at the tip, you are away. You don't have any more the character. So this is what you can watch very well. And when you watch, for example, the career of our Chancellor Angela Merkel, it's interesting to see where does she have a sort of political statement. It's hard to find because it's just a machine of power. And I can tell you, if tomorrow somehow a poll says that right-wing conservative ideas might become more popular, of course you will find in this party somebody who serve to these ideas, and she will say, oh look, we are serving this. So the Conservative Party, especially the Conservative Party, became a sort of machine to keep power and to gain power and to collect votes. But this you can also say about the Social Democrats, about the Green Party, about the Liberals, about all the established parties. They are functioning like this. They don't have anymore a sort of ideology, a sort of idea they share, or a Weltanschauung, or whatever you want to find behind it. What is the first national interest of every country? It's the benefit and the welfare of its citizens. This is number one. So if I look, or not just me, if analysts look on the politics today, they say, well, this is not really the benefit of the citizens. This is maybe the benefit of what we can see, maybe of some bank houses, of maybe the Wall Street of New York. It's even not, the problem is, just to say it clear, when Germany pays billions to Greece, it doesn't arrive at the Greek citizen or at the Greek worker. It arrives at the debt giver, and this is some bank house, wherever it sits. So this is at first, it's not a benefit. It's not a benefit for Germany, it's not a benefit for Greece or for any other country. And this is, by the way, what is a general rule. In my opinion, if you look what is the benefit of Germany, what is the benefit of German citizens, you will find automatically that also in international affairs, for example, it would be also automatically the benefit of the country or the people we deal with. Let me give the example with Russia. Germany is, in my opinion, one of the most natural partners, close partners of Russia, how it should be. The reality is that Germany is dealing very, very bad with Russia. Okay, we are doing some business, but always when it comes to the discussion about getting closer politically, about established ties which are strong. Let me say maybe ties we can compare with the ties we had in the past with Washington or also with Paris, by the way. Then it comes here a moralic discussion which tells us we shouldn't get closer to them, it's an evil dictatorship, the human rights are not respected. But anyway, the problem is that Russia is the natural partner of Germany, and all these discussions cannot hide the truth about this. Mm-hmm. So if we could act in a free way as Germany with Russia, as we should do, it would be of course a benefit for the Russians and for the Germans. When I just say that the visa regulations between our two countries are somehow weird for two European countries, and when you look how much we approach, for example, Turkey, non-European states, or even how much we approach to the US and Canada and so on, countries which are on the globe, if you watch, much more far away, and where are not these huge ties, these historic ties we used to have with Russia. So you see, there is something also going wrong. If we look, for example, to what is happening in Syria right now, and this is also not in the German interest. Germany is supporting very strong the so-called rebels in Syria. What means we were cutting all our ties, our diplomatic ties with Syria. We were campaigning for the economic embargoes towards Syria. Germany was one of the first countries who was putting the oil embargo on Syria. Although Germany was with around 30% one of the biggest taker and buyers of Syrian oil. And the intent of this dealing of the Berlin government was very clear. They wanted to push down the Syrian economy so the Syrian side couldn't pay anymore the public sector, which doesn't just include the army and the police, but also the complete health system, the education system, and so on. So it was an action to put down a complete country and its people. And this is neither a benefit for the Syrians, of course, but also not for the Germans, because the German economy would get a lot of benefit in dealing on a fair and free way with the Syrian economy. And I think there could be also a lot of benefit for both people, for the Germans and for the Syrians. To complete the answer, this is, in my opinion, Germany is right now, until now, a sort of economic giant, but politically we are not dealing with this responsibility, what it means. We are giving our responsibility to others and feeling somehow well that others decide on our behalf, so maybe we don't become guilty in doing something wrong. Maybe this is the psychology behind this thinking. It's like a little bit the thinking of a small child when they say, yes, I give this decision to my elder brothers, and when they do something wrong, it were they. But Germany should find back soon to responsibility, and one of these responsibilities must be or could be that Germany becomes a sort of peaceful power in the system of powers on the world. Germany has had a long tradition to be a sort of judge. When we remember Bismarck and the conference on the Balkan, for example, there were a lot of good things coming from Germany when we look at real history and not just on what happened or what might have happened in two wars. There's a good historical value in this tradition, and we should find back to this historical value. So I'm editor-in-chief of the monthly news journal Zuerst. It means first in English. Zuerst is now existing since about 3 years. We are now in the 3rd year. And the idea was to make a modern, right-wing, conservative magazine in a modern way, where we handle the actual discussions, where we bring a lot of interviews, but where we also look for the impacts coming from foreign countries. I think because of our discussion before, when I answered you, the question was that Germany, since 45, there is a lack of discussion, what we have. It's almost silence in a lot of aspects. So what we have to do now, this is my personal opinion now, we have to watch very close and very clear what is going on at the same fields of discussion in other countries, for example in Russia, but also in France and even in Austria. We can learn a lot and we can find very interesting people to talk about these things. So this is also what we want to do. We want to import somehow these discussions and these aspects and the intellectual sphere of these discussions, what we miss right now in Germany. I think this is one of the important things what we do, and what until now almost no, there are some exceptions, but almost no right-wing conservative magazine or publication was dealing with, because it's somehow a burden very often that national conservatives are sometimes more or less a little bit chauvinistic, and they are not interested simply what is going on outside the borders of your country. So I think this thinking should be thinking of yesterday, and we should now get into discussion with each other. But another important aspect what we try to achieve with our Zuerst magazine, and I think we are not so bad in achieving the same, is that we are doing a professional magazine, which you can compare with the big mainstream magazines published in Germany. What means, beside the interviews we were talking about, we have a lot of reportage. We are bringing a lot of, how shall I say, stories covered by ourselves. What means, for example, just to give you one more example, when we are writing about things going on in Syria, I was there myself and doing the reportage and the interviews and everything else. So we are very, very engaged in giving information from first hand and not just getting it second or even third hand. We are also doing the same things in Germany, for example, when we are going on research. So I think we might be one of the very, very few non-mainstream magazines which are dealing a lot with investigative journalism, researchers, and so on. So we were covering, for example, a story about German politicians who are, well, you can say, who are on the payroll of foreign powers, who are paid, for example, by Azerbaijan or Turkey or other things. So this is a thing what our employees and our journalists are working on. What means also we are publishing we are not an ideological magazine. You will not find any big philosophical articles, but we try to cover as well as we can the truth, and the truth is sometimes so hardcore, and the truth hurts the mainstream so much that you can imagine we have a lot of enemies in Germany. Almost the complete mainstream either hates us or either tries to silence us. But as I said, we are in the third year, and they didn't. They were not successful, and hopefully they will not be in future also.